Well, everybody, I'm Cantonese Cat. Hey, everybody, Cantonese Cat here. Let's talk about the big elephant in the room here. HUD-8. It went from not really looking that bullish to looking bullish in many time frames, just in the matter of the last month or two. Absolutely incredible big green candles so far for the month, and we closed the month looking very bullish. We closed the month with big volume, we closed the month with whale coming in. So what happened? Well, let's take a look at a few things here. First of all, if you look at Ichimoku Cloud, the only thing that I am finding that is not quite ready is just that we haven't really had the bullish Tenkan and Kijun cross, right? For the beginning of a bull market, generally I like to see the Tenkan, which is the blue line over here, crossing above the Kijun, which is the red line over here. Once you have the leading line crossing over the lagging line, that's when you're a little bit more well assured that you might have a little bit more of a bull trend going on. It hasn't really quite done that quite just yet, but even during last cycle, it didn't matter because you didn't really have the big cross until the big giant green candle. Next thing you know, things just went on very bullish for a while after that. So as far as I'm concerned, that's really the only thing that is not quite there. Everything else looks great. If you look at the Bollinger Band, it basically just tested the upper Bollinger Band, got rejected there initially, but look at what it's doing. The 20-month moving average is curling up now. It's been flat for months and now it's curling up. And it could potentially serve as pretty decent support moving forward, show it needed, right? And also look at what the Bollinger Band is doing. The Bollinger Band on the monthly is expanding. And it looks like price wants to go up higher with the Bollinger Band expansion. This literally just changed over the last month or two. And if you also look at the weekly time frame, you also have started having a lot of very bullish development. First of all, but just put up the Ichimoku Cloud. You're actually closing above the Ichimoku Cloud for the week, right? On big volume, big breakout. Whales came in big, right? You also have a little bit of a bullish crossover here on the weekly. Now, do I think that things have probably gone on a little bit too far, too fast? Yes, because it's way outside the upper Bollinger Band for weeks on 1, 2, and 3. And is it due for some kind of cool down? Sure, I think it is. Could it end up breaking down underneath the cloud again? That's entirely possible. But these big giant volume candles on with whalish momentum is not necessarily to be ignored, right? Do you have any correlate in terms of data from, let's say, like Fintel.io? Is there some institutions are buying? Yeah, actually for the month of June, looks like institutional ownership has just doubled, right? Initially plummeted, but for the month of June, it went up doubled, right? So I think that might explain the very impulsive price action that has happened for the month of June. Somebody decided that it was undervalued and just wanted to buy it and just push the price up by double. That's basically what HUD has done really over the last month or two. And if you look at the weekly chart, do I think things are a little bit overextended? I do. Another way to kind of look at it, instead of looking at the Ichimoku Cloud, would be look at the Super Ichi Cloud. And you can see that at the Super Ichi Cloud, it looks like it actually got rejected here, right? So we're not quite ready quite just yet. You have a little bit of a false breakout here, got rejected, and so far we're still getting rejected, right? So yes, we are still having a little bit of a problem here. But I just want to kind of zoom out here a little bit. We're basically maybe somewhere around here based on the morphology of the market structure. This cycle over here during this bear market really looked very similar to this cycle over here. And we just kept on forming these cups, trying to attack a very important resistance zone. And as soon as that resistance zone was broken, I think things just kind of went up pretty parabolically afterwards, right? So I think that we might be, and if I illustrate this with Ichimoku Cloud, you can also see it, a little bit more clearly. We might be here. We might be at the cups of potentially breaking above the Ichimoku Cloud. And the Ichimoku Cloud over here is also very weak over here. It's not really like strong resistance or anything. It's very thin, right? So that could be potentially like a point for attack where price could go up higher through this window. We will see. I mean, I think that things are looking pretty bullish here. Now, the question is there anything to forewarn you that HUD was going to make this move over the last 4 weeks? is there anything at all? Now, I gotta be completely honest with you, like I haven't really paid that much attention to HUD over the last couple of weeks. You know, I was just looking at these traditional indicators. Is underneath the cloud. It's well, not anymore, right? But it was underneath the cloud. And if I was looking at the the monthly Ichimoku cloud, you haven't really had any cross yet. Price is way underneath the Tenkan, so there was really not any particular reason to be like too bullish on it. Although the only thing was, if you look at maybe a little bit more increase in whales over the last 6 to 8 weeks or so, right? I guess you can see a little bit of a trend change over there. But really looking at these traditional indicators, you really can't see anything. So what can you see that might be a little bit of a hint that this bullish move would have happened? Well, I think if you look at the monthly chart, and you look at something called the on balance volume, and I missed this since I don't really look at this for every single stock. One thing that is very, very important to look at is, as you can see, that when stock price just kind of went sideways, if anything, when it went down a little bit, let's say for example from here going down to here, right? Like it's really just kind of gone like downwards, right? Like that, right? It's just kind of gone down. But what did the unbalanced volume here do? The unbalanced volume throughout the entire time was pointing up. When you have the price going down and the unbalanced volume going up, basically it's like, for example, like this big giant volume candle over here, like it didn't really move price at all, but you have a lot of volume that's being pushed in, right? So the thought is potentially this is a very, very big secret buy candle where the price didn't move much at all, but you end up having a lot of volume being kicked in that is bullish, right? So basically you're seeing a little bit of a bullish divergence over here between price and unbalanced volume. Now, I went back to look at the other stocks and see whether or not they're having that right now, or if they had it before the run up. The answer is no. Like pretty much I see well, actually I take that back. If you look at Clean Spark, something very interesting has happened. Is that if you look at the unbalanced volume, like price went up, unbalanced volume went down, you have a little bit of a hidden bullish divergence, that actually is giving Clean Spark some potential momentum moving forward to go up a lot higher. You look at Mara doesn't really have too much of a divergence. Bitfarm doesn't really have that much of a divergence here. Cypher, it really doesn't have that much of a divergence here. And Irene doesn't have divergence. Wolf actually also doesn't have that much divergence. So if you look at like HUD is really the big one that is really having a lot of divergence over here, is playing out very, very nicely, right? I'm going to talk about the other ones too, but basically just long story short, I'm not seeing any divergences with any of the other stocks, including RIOT. So that's unfortunate. Now, the problem is price going to end up pushing a lot higher? Are we at resistance? Is there some kind of resistance here that we need to pay attention to, right? I just showed you on the weekly, we are at the Tsubishi Cloud resistance that just got rejected this week, right? And it's also right there around the 0.136 level, which has been pretty significant resistance previously here as well. Now, just because we close a week slightly above it doesn't necessarily mean that it's not going to go back down, right? So that's a potential source of resistance right there. Another source of resistance is going to come from, let me see here. I'm going to show the, I'm going to try to show the again over here that I have. Another source of resistance is really this. Price almost got rejected almost perfectly off of this top of the arc right there. So you're still going to talk about some resistance around the zone over here. And you just like stopped it. You don't even need to use any indicators. You can tell that this entire zone right here is pretty strong resistance, right? All the way from maybe around like 14 to 15 bucks all the way to like maybe 20, right? You can see that there's a big resistance level over here. You don't even need any specific indicators over here, right? So I think that this move is a little bit exhaustive. And also on top of that, you also look at a Bollinger Band. It's also just been way outside the upper Bollinger Band for about like 3 weeks in a row. So I think that you might end up having a little bit of a correction, maybe even need to back test some of the levels down here, maybe like 11, 10 bucks before this bullish continuation. Just look at how beautiful this rejection is at the arc. Like I didn't draw the arc. I drew this arc like a couple months ago maybe. Just look at how perfect this rejection is of that arc. It's kind of amazing. But anyway, the matter of fact is it did break out of this lower arc right here, and it used this angle over here as support to push price up higher. And the next stop is going to be challenging this arc up here. We'll see how it fares, but so far HUD is looking pretty good. So I spent about 10 minutes talking about HUD. There's a reason for this, because I just want to use it as an example to try to figure out, like, hey, is this something that could happen in other stocks? The only thing that I'm really seeing was the unbalanced volume hidden bullish divergence on CleanSpark. That might play out, relatively soon, and that was very, very interesting to me. Now, HUD seems to be one of the more bullish stocks that I currently do not own. What about the other bullish stocks that I also don't own? Is there any other ones that also look good, right? Well, there is another one over here called BitDeer. BitDeer looks pretty decent. Like right now it is at around like $10 resistance, because that's kind of where price started, right? You're gonna have a little bit of a volume show up over here, right? Around $10. That's gonna be a pretty decent volume show over here as resistance, right? But BitDeer also fits a lot of these very bullish criteria. First of all, unlike HUD8, BitDeer actually also hasn't really quite had his bullish cross quite just yet, unfortunately, right? But everything else looked pretty good with it. Like, for example, if you look at the 20-month moving average, it's really turned flat. This big giant green candle over here, it's really turned this 20-month moving average flat. So that could potentially flip this area over here from being resistance to support. Look at this whale like candle over here. Like, it's just been a lot of whales just buying in. And so far this candle is on big, large volume. So there's a lot of very positive things to look into this. If you look at a weekly chart, there's also a lot of very positive things that are happening. Just like HUD8, the BitDeer chart is close above the Ichimoku cloud. You're about to get a bullish technical cross here on the weekly as well. Whales are also in here on the weekly chart. So there are a lot of things that are very positive for it. And to take the Ichimoku cloud out, Bullish support band has reclaimed it very well. Bollinger Band is also expanding, right? Right now it's just a little bit too far outside the upper Bollinger Band. Very similar to HUD, right? Very similar to HUD, way outside the upper Bollinger Band. But it's looking very, very bullish. Whales are in, just like HUD, right? Now, the question is going to be, is it hitting any kind of like strong resistance? And the answer to that question may be better looked at using the Gen and the Fibonacci levels to try to answer that particular question. The answer to that would be, I think the resistance you're going to get is, in addition to the Bollinger Band being a little bit too far stretched, you're also hitting this Fibonacci level at the 0.618 golden ratio, which is close to $10. Again, this ratio over here is basically very similar to a price when it started IPOing. And there's also, a pretty decent volume shelf right around that level over here that it needs to get over, right? So there's a lot of resistance over here. Once price breaks about maybe like 11.2 or something like that, which is exactly where it got rejected, which is top of this big giant volume shelf over here. Once price breaks above, then you're talking about potentially hitting some of the targets up above, maybe around 12 to 13, and then when you break above that, maybe a little bit of resistance here at the angle, but you're talking about maybe around like $20, maybe like 22. We'll see how it goes. I mean, obviously there's going to be higher targets as it goes, right? But so far, BitDeer is looking one of the better ones. It looks more bullish here on the weekly, and also looks more bullish here on the monthly, right? But just like HUD8 is getting so bullish that it's starting to hit a lot of resistance, and the Bollinger Band is also stretching a little bit too overstretched, right? So that is BitDeer. Where's another one that is looking pretty decent? Well, one that is looking also pretty decent, but not quite as good as the other two, would be BTBT BitDigital. BitDigital also has some slight increase in whale, and this green candle over here is also on increased volume. So these things are pretty decent development. If you look at the Ichimoku cloud, it had the bullish cross already. It's been trying to reclaim the Tenkan, not quite yet, but so far this actually had a bullish cross, which I guess from that regard is a little bit more bullish than HUD and BitDeer, but it's still kind of underneath the Tenkan, trying to reclaim it. And if you also look at the 20-month moving average, it's been reclaiming back the 20-month moving average so far this month, right? So you don't quite have the Bollinger Band expansion because it's not really that bullish quite just yet. It's just been still going sideways. but it's reclaiming some of the very important support levels as support. You look at the weekly as the increase in whale. This weekly candle over here engulfs the last 3 or 4 weeks over here, and looks very, very bullish on high volume. Whales are in, right? Bull market support band has been reclaimed. And if you also look at a weekly, you have a little bit of a squeezing here. Maybe this move over here is going to end up expanding the Bollinger Band up higher to allow BTBT to go up higher next month. We will see. Looking at the weekly Ichimoku cloud, it stuck its head inside the weekly Ichimoku cloud. Initially get a little bit rejected here on the top of the cloud, right? But still, it's looking like it's trying. It's just not as bullish as BitDeer. It's not as bullish as HIVE. But BTBT also doesn't really look too bad, to be completely honest. It's trying. You know, a couple other things too to look at the BTBT chart. I think it might end up going higher. And as soon as it breaks into the arc, as soon as it breaks into the cloud over here, it might end up hitting some of the more important levels up above, which is going to be close to maybe this $4 zone over here, this horizontal line over here on the GAN. $5 is going to be a very important resistance zone over here, which it got rejected here in 0.136 Fibonacci retracement level from previous, right? And if you're able to break back above, you might have a little bit of confluence zone over here between $8 to $10, and then the mid-teens, and it could go up a lot higher. But you're still talking about a lot of resistance that is to be broken, and right now price is still trying to break into some of these resistance zones. But one thing is very, very kind of nice is that it is able to break above the arc here again, and looks like the natural gravitation is probably going to be this horizontal line over here at like $4 next, which means that it's probably going to end up breaking above the cloud and get there. What it does after that, we'll see. But so far, momentum seems to be on the side. You know what is not yet bullish though? What is still something that is a little bit of a enigma is RIOT. RIOT did have a little bit of a bullish cross over here, but price is simply way below the Tenkan Kijun, and it's just been going downtrend. Whale's momentum is not there, and the 20-month moving average is also serving as a little bit of resistance. It was pointing up a little bit, now it's starting to point a little bit flat, right? So you're really losing a lot of momentum here with RIOT, unfortunately. Now, I do want to show you the BTBT, there's increase in whale. The only thing is, like, you look at the RIOT monthly chart, even though it's not showing it, for the month of June, there's a lot of buying over here, which is quite interesting because you're not really picking up on any of these. Maybe they're buying OTC, that doesn't seem to affect price. Maybe there's like a little bit of kind of like a hidden divergence of institutional ownership that's not really showing up here on these indicators. I don't know. But so far, the monthly is not quite ready. And again, I was trying to look for any kind of like divergences to back up. Is there a potential move kind of going up a lot higher? I'm not really seeing that here on the monthly, and I'm also not really seeing here that here on the weekly in terms of the unbalanced volume, unlike HIVE, right? So on the monthly, you have some problems in Paradise. On weekly, you also have a lot of problems in Paradise too. The bull market support band continues to serve as the bear market resistance band. It's been just oscillating. It's still underneath of it. You look at the Bollinger Band, it's just kind of it's just kind of pointing downwards, right? There's really not any much momentum here from the whale side at all. On the weekly chart with the MCDX, if anything, you have increase in retail overall. So there's a lot of these like warning sign again, like it's waiting underneath the Ichimoku cloud, and the weekly Tenkan, the blue lines, continues to serve as resistance, and right now it's just way below it. So is there anything to be bullish about RIOT chart? I'll show you what could be bullish about RIOT chart. Well, in addition to it being that maybe the month of June had a lot of whales in it, I'll show you what I think is bullish about the RIOT chart. I'm gonna put up the GAN over here. Again, I drew this GAN a while back. I didn't draw this any time like recently to try to refit or anything like that. You can see how it's been respecting the GAN very, very well. Rejected over here at the arc, and then pushes through a couple arcs, went up here, rejected, back test, rejected, went back down, horizontal zone, arc resistance, angle, arc resistance, broke resistance, and it just went up to this arc right here, got rejected, went back down, and guess where it found support over here on the weekly? It found support here at the angle, form a very, very nice hammer bottom. I think this is the bottom for RIOT over the last year. And it just simply didn't really have that momentum to try to push up higher, right? Like you would see, you imagine like if you have a very nice hammer candle right here, you imagine that if there's truly a strong reversal, which initially was a little bit of a fake out, right? This really got everybody excited over here after this hammer candle, but instead of doing that, it just kind of went sideways, just kind of went down. But we did end up having almost a perfect back test over here of this angle here again, right? And this angle is really an angle that has been tested over here at the cycle bottom a couple months ago and again now. So when I'm at support, I generally get a little bit more bullish, and it looks like it is currently at a pretty interesting support. So even though there's no momentum from the whales, there's more momentum from retail, the volume of this downtrend over the last couple of months also really isn't that great. And you also have some whale, institutional accumulation over here that doesn't really seem to show up on the MCDX, which suggests to me that there might be some silent over-the-counter dark pool absorption of supply. So if you are talking about supply and demand, most likely this is a pretty bullish development for RIOT, right? Anyway, I'm just speculating, but I'm not really seeing anything in particular. The only thing I'm bullish about, I think it's a support. I think it's a support. And also, well, institutions seems to be buying. Like, those are really the only two things I can go off on to say that RIOT is still probably bullish. But a lot of the other indicators are basically saying that RIOT is not ready yet. It could change in a hurry. I'm not saying that it's going to be, it could change in a hurry. It's nice that it's at support. CORZ. I really don't have much for this, with the exception if we put up the 20-week moving average. Initially, it was just way overextended, and right now it's kind of get back inside the upper Bollinger Band here on the weekly. And because of that, I think it probably end up cooling down here a little bit. Like this big move over here probably needs to be absorbed in terms of consolidation. I mean, again, I could be wrong, but I think that most likely it needs to also over here probably even need to retrace to the mean over here on the daily chart before going up higher. You do have a little bit of increased volume selling this week, right, which is a little bit concerning in the short term. But overall, whales on the daily are still in, and it looks like the weekly trend is just so strong that it seems like the whales are still in here. I don't know what else to say. Like, I don't have enough history to really chart or talk too much about CORZ, to be completely honest with you. All I gotta say is it's cooling down right now, which is expected. The other couple of other stocks that I'm not really too entirely bullish about, I just want to talk about them because sometimes I get asked about them. One of which is DGHI. I'm just going to go for it real quick. No whalish momentum, consolidating sideways on declining volume. Maybe this could potentially break out soon, but there's no guarantee. Right? Look at Ichimoku Cloud. You had a bullish cross, but price is still underneath both the Tenkan and Kijun. So maybe it breaks above. I don't know. But it's not ready from that perspective. From the Bollinger Band perspective, still underneath the 20-month moving average, so not quite ready yet. From the weekly perspective, it's underneath the bull market support band as resistance, is underneath the Ichimoku Cloud, right? So far there's not really much to say about it. I mean, if it breaks back above, it could go up a lot higher, but so far there's no confirmation, and we're still at resistance. So I'm not that particularly bullish on that on DigiHost. If you also look at, if you also look at the next one that I have here, which is another rather popular one, which is HIVE. With HIVE, it's also the same thing, unfortunately, where if you look at the monthly, look at Ichimoku, it doesn't even have the bullish cross yet, although you do have increased buying volume this month. You have a little bit of jump in whale, but it's still underneath a lot of the indicators over here, including the Tenkan and Kijun, no bullish cross, right? Including, if you look at the Bollinger Band, the 20-month moving average continue to serve as resistance, right? So a lot of things are still not quite ready yet. On the weekly, it has yet to really truly claim the Bollinger support band, although it's trying. It did also have a little bit of a trees on top over here, which is unfortunate, right? On the Ichimoku Cloud, flipping and Tenkan as support, but it's still way underneath the cloud, and the baseline, the Kijun is also going to be potential resistance. You do have a little bit increased volume over here, which is promising for HIVE, but you also have a little bit of a trees to top look over here. So maybe a little bit more consolidating, a little bit more sideways before going higher. I don't know, a little bit of whalish momentum coming in, but it still looks like it's underneath a lot of resistance, right? maybe looking a little bit better now. We'll see. One that I'm also not entirely bullish on yet at this point anyway is Canon. This is a company that provides a lot of the mining machines for companies. If you look at the monthly, Ichimoku is just way underneath all these resistance right here. If you also look at the Bollinger Band, the 20-month moving average continues to point down. So far, there's not really any indication that this bear trend is over. You look at the weekly too. The weekly is quite interesting. You have about a lot of these different inside candles to this one over here. So it's just been consolidating sideways. You have a little tiny bit of momentum in terms of whales coming in. So you might have a little bit of a bullish development here in the short term, but there's no guarantee. It's still underneath the bull market support band, which is served as resistance, right? Got rejected by it last week. And the Ichimoku cloud is trying to flip the Tenkan from resistance to support last week, but so far it's been failing to hold, right? So Canon is also still not ready quite just yet, unfortunately. So those are some of the Bitcoin miner stocks that I think you guys have requested that I don't have any ownership. Usually I don't make that much views from these videos, but I'm going to talk about them anyway because I'm interested in them. Particularly HUD seems like something great has happened, but again it got into resistance. BitDeer looks like something great may be happening, but again that's also potentially a resistance as well. So we'll see what happens next. I'm happy to update you guys as much as I can if time allows. Thank you so much. Have a good one. Bye.